All right, folks, how are things? Evening, folks, how are you getting on? Just going to introduce myself and the guys in just a second. My name's Shane Hannon, I work with Off the Ball, and listen, we're delighted to be in the Dugout Bar at the minute and tonight. Big week in Derry, plenty of flags, plenty of bunting. I'm a Monaghan man myself, so he's fair to say battered us out the gate in Armagh that night. But listen, anyone but Tyrone, I think, is the motto we all take. So, and Tyrone are gone and dusted by this stage. But massive week, going to be a massive night's crack, a bit of nostalgia. We'll talk a bit of 1993 as well with some of the lads. Plenty of preview as well ahead of the weekend, so loads of good stuff to look forward to. If you wouldn't mind just putting the phones on silent, you can keep them on, take your photos or whatever else, but if they were just on silent, that would be brilliant. But really good night ahead, loads of good guests, and without further ado, I just want to introduce our two off-the-ball presenters, Máire-Treasa, Ni-Cheallaigh, and Joe Molloy.
Hello everyone, you're very welcome.
Hello.
It is great to be here. We're delighted to be here. You've got a game at the weekend, I hear.
So do I.
Yeah, well they're taking it for granted. They're already through really to semi-final stages is the word on the street. So we've got a brilliant show for you. We've brought some hurling royalty. We thought we'd talk a bit of hurling as well. So Eddie Brennan is up and we're going to hear about his career. We've mainly brought Brennan Devaney just to laugh at Donegal, so we'll do that for about an hour or two, and we can really enjoy that and indulge that. But first, as Shane mentioned, we thought we would look back on 1993. I'm sure lots of you have very fond memories. So a warm welcome, please, to two of the greats from that team. We have Mr. Enda Gormley and Tony Scullion.
Get yourselves up there now and nice and comfortable.
Very welcome.
You're very welcome. Now.
Tony, good man.
Now.
Listen, it's great to be here. It's great to have you with us. We are, as you can see, here with our good friends Guinness. We're in the Dugout Bar in Maghera. It's all with thanks to Guinness 0.0, 100% Guinness, 0% alcohol. More social occasions off the GA pitch are yours for the taking. Are you mainly on Guinness 0.0 or just Guinness out there? A few sneaky winks I'm getting there from people there. Fellas, you're very welcome. So 1993, does it feel like yesterday?
Nope. Definitely not.
Hard to believe 30 years all the same, I suspect.
Yeah, 29, it's...
Oh, you're clinging to that year. That's
yeah,
important.
absolutely. Yeah. Every year is very valuable now, but I suppose we're hoping that it'll seem a lot longer away this year and over the next few years whenever Derry is back competing at the top level, hopefully, because that's probably something we haven't been doing, so which unfortunately keeps us too much in the public eye, the public conscience, which...
You'd like to be off the legend circuit doing these interviews eventually.
We'll always be the first, but we'd like to not to be the only one.
Tony, how often do you two see each other?
Well, on stage is pretty often, but not as often the last number of years, Joe. We do promise that we should meet up once a year, and it's something that we should be doing. We did, unfortunately. We met up on the sad passing of our manager, Coleman, a number of years ago. But unfortunately, we did go down there a couple of years ago for a National League match. Most of us got on a bus and we had a good night. But as I say, we don't meet up enough because, as I say, the years pass so quickly. And I was, we all are lucky. And when I look back, it was great to be involved with such a great Derry team.
I might get the ball rolling for a second, just for younger members of the crowd who are looking on. I'm going to get you both to say something nice about each other, and you can tell these youngsters what they missed out on. Now, I know we're not very good at doing this, Irish men, eyes to the floor, saying nice things about each other. So, here we go. Jeez. Tony, we're going to go for you first. So, we're talking here in Enda, in a two-time All-Star, 1992 and 1993. He was the free taker, scored 6 points in the All-Ireland final. Kicked 25 points that season, by the way. Thank you very much, in those 5 games. So why don't you expand on that for the youngsters who missed out on Enda Gormley?
Well...
I'm glad he's going first.
Sorry, keep this clean. Keep this clean.
That's very difficult for me, for a balanced screen man to say something nice about a Glen man. But, well, what can I say? People talks about fitness levels and... that athleticism is the most important thing in Gaelic football. Well, all I can say about Enda, no matter what era, and Enda Gormley wearing 15 could wear that 15 jersey with Derry today because you need the brain, and he had the brain. One good thing I'm going to say about the All-Ireland final, it was great Ni-Cheallaigh had him slap because it woke him up that day.
Believe me, it was well practiced because many a day he did it.
But usually he didn't need a slap because he was always very, very consistent. And, you know, he was a race marksman, full stop, freeze or whatever from play. And I'll tell you one thing. If you got a shoulder from, you knew you got a shoulder from. And corner forwards or whatever, maybe you felt an all day you could maybe get them out of the game handy enough, or you give them a couple of wee, well, not skill, I wouldn't be saying, but you'd be marking them close. Well, it wouldn't matter with Gormley. Gormley can play it hard or fair, whatever you want to play with. Great man, and we were so lucky to have him for a long number of years.
Can I interject with that then? Because you started off with saying he had great brains. Is that you saying the beauty was a little bit absent?
Well, sure, you look at him now.
Are you saying you don't want to flatter him too much?
When you look at him compared to me, look at the shape I'm in compared to him. And I was the oldest man on the team. But he's only a chicken to me, but doesn't look like it. But
That's the lifestyles both of us live, but Scott.
well.
I hear boys talking to you about a few late nights around the hook and stand.
Well, we had. No. He wasn't. He definitely had the ability anyway.
I think we'll take that as a compliment, and anyway.
I'm not sure they're coming from him.
Are you happy with that?
Oh, I live with that from Scullion. I'll absolutely live with that.
Okay, so now it's your turn. Tell us about the man, Tony the Tiger Scullion. So we're talking here, in fairness, 4 All-Stars in 87, 92, 93, 95, one of the great fullbacks of his generation. You can tell us more.
If Derry had our cornerbacks, Tony could probably have won 4 All-Stars in the half-forward line. That's what I'd say about Tony Scullion. Best cornerback sometimes, particularly in those days, maybe not so much now, were probably ruined as not been footballers but been stoppers. Tony, he was way ahead of his time as a cornerback. He played mostly, albeit he started full back in 93. He could have played 5-10 yards in front of you, and nobody could have hacked with this. He was way ahead of his time. He could come up, and I remember in an 87 Ulster final, he knocked a ball over from outside the 50. I also remember, to give you an example of what I mean about the half forward, he played centre half forward against us in a club championship match one night, and I think he scored 10 points down Greenlock. Would that be right? Wow. You know, he could have played it with both feet.
Wow.
Talking about intelligence, talking about reading the game, like that era, it was good for me. But I was training against 2 of the best cornerbacks in Ireland without a doubt, and him, Kieran Maghera at that stage. And this man could have played you anyway, whatever way you wanted in front. He had incredible pace, incredible reading the game. 2 feet when 2 feet wasn't a big thing. Way ahead of his time. And as I say, genuinely, he would have won All-Stars in the forward line if he had been, without doubt. But just we only had one of them.
I'm glad.
Thank God, because
I'm glad he's not thinking tonight because I'd have to buy me a pint.
I'm glad I asked the question because it would be easy to assume, big, strong, he was just an enforcer, so far more than that. And what about as a person?
Quiet, shy, backward, and retired. Let's just say, again, he was way ahead of his time. In those days, you would have done a few laps. So the boys here of that generation, you did a few laps, and you'd lay about and stretched. Tony used to sit and laugh at us. And as it transferred, that outstretch is over. And now, as the generations moved on, that wasn't the thing to be doing. It was all dynamic stretching. And then Scullion, when he got in the coach, he said, I was ahead of my time, boys. So there was great crack now. If you ever were having a night out, you could be sure Scullion would be in the middle of it and leading the charge and never the first man home.
Okay.
But be careful here tonight.
Derry 1993. So let's touch on that season for a moment. Eamon Coleman comes in 1990. He's a young manager, 43 years of age. And Derry had won the Ulster Championship in 1987. But when Coleman takes over, you're in Division 3 in 1990. So if I was to say to you then, Tony, around that time, a couple of years out from 93, there's an All-Ireland in this team. Was that something you would have agreed with, or was it hard to see when Coleman came in?
Well, he made us believe. He told us there was an All-Ireland in us. And we were just, somebody was talking before the show started there, but, talking to Eddie Brennan there, great hurling player from Kilkenny, who's with us tonight, which is great to see. There was a lot of us playing dual at the time. playing hurling for both county, both hurling and football for the county. One Sunday you're away playing a National Football League for Derry, and the next Sunday you're away playing National Hurling League for your county. So, you know, you had the McKeever, you had McGilligan, you had the Downies, you had the McGurks, you had myself played. So and Eamon didn't tell us, he never told us to quit playing county hurling, but he made us believe that there was an Ireland football title on us. There was a Sam Maguire. So we made that decision ourselves among the group that it was impossible what Damon was demanding from us at training and whatever, and the preparation and all. It was impossible for us to do both codes at county level at that stage. So we all decided to give the county hurling a miss for them number of years. And as I say, he just drove it home that there was an Ireland title on us in 91. Down beat us after a replay and went on to win the All-Ireland. 92, Donegal, we disposed down the All-Ireland champions in sun-drenched Casement Park, which was a tremendous day in the Ulster semi-final in 92, and Donegal deservedly beat us in the Ulster final that year. And then in 93, thanks be to God, our day came, and we won the Ulster title, and we went on to win the All-Ireland, which was absolutely fabulous.
Enda, can I ask you, do you think in today's age and our impatience, a young manager like that coming into a team, you know, he believed there was something in you. Maybe lots of other people didn't believe it. Would he have had the time and would he have been given the space to develop a team in today's day compared to the time you guys got in the early 90s?
He didn't get it in 94 anyway, so I doubt it if he would get it. No, would he get that time? I don't know, but Eamon, to be honest with you, Eamon got the job because nobody else wanted it. That's where he wanted. He took us in the minors. He won a minor All-Ireland in 83 with Derry, an Ulster minor 84, under 21 All-Ireland final in 85. And just come back to Joe's point there, he managed us in Sigerson for a couple of years with Jordanstown, and I always remember just to think how he was thinking different to everybody else. This was in the 70s and 80s. Ulster or Connacht teams never realistically challenged for an All-Ireland. And I grew up, never saw an Ulster or Connacht team. I remember sitting one night with him before Sigerson final. We're all just putting in the time, and we're picking Derry teams as Eamon, because Eamon always wanted to manage Derry. And there was a particular individual that I said had to be a shoe in, and he looked at me and he said, "No good. You'd be no good running up and down Crow Park after Jack O'Shea." And I said, "Shit, but we have to win Ulster." He says, "No point winning Ulster. We have to win an All-Ireland." And this was the way, at that stage, I thought he was mad. You know, it's just his belief and his vision for Derry was, and his ambition was much ahead of everybody else at that stage. So he was way ahead of his time in that belief thing. And to be honest with you, at that stage, did I really believe when he came in with one All-Ireland? Probably not. I was a stepping stone as Tony went through here. How Down was a massive factor, and then Donegal in 92, and plus one in the league was, I think, again, going back to Ulster's record in Crow Park, not just in the championship, to win the 92 league was a massive, massive thing for a day. It was only the second title day had ever lifted in Crow Park.
Well, am I right in saying at Crow Park, before that win, the league win in 92, where you beat Meath in the semi-final, you played in Crow Park 11 times and lost 11 times?
You pull that factor. That's true, yeah.
It's a hell of a record.
It is. And I think we won the next 11 right enough.
Fair enough.
So, but it was. And those things have an effect on you, you know. Yeah. You're just thought, because the first game was actually the semi-final, but that league was our first victory, my first victory, and it was a massive, massive thing to break that duck, and then to follow it up 2 weeks later with the league title was, you know, at that stage I probably would have been very glad to finish like that. Had an Ulster medal in my pocket and a league, but believe me, Eamon wasn't. Albeit, when I say that, I can say that now, but at the time, I remember when Donegal beat us, we were absolutely gutted in the Ulster final. And there was a fanaticism come into the squad that year. Like, it was people talking about hunger, and it's not that, you know, even talking about throwing this year, it's not that the throwing boys didn't train hard. I don't believe for a second they didn't train hard, but you lose 1 or 2%, nearly madness. You know, to win that breaking ball, to make that last tackle, to track somebody back, just to go for a second rather than hesitate for a second, and that could be the difference. And
so in 93 you were possessed almost, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were possessed. Also, don't forget, we were well coached. You know, Mickey Moran, and he has proved it since. Absolutely Superman. Absolutely Superman. So they were a great partnership, absolutely great partnership, Eamon and Mickey together. And absolutely, your backroom team and doctors and physios, and you know, if I start naming, I'm gonna miss somebody. So, but I'm saying is Eamon and Mickey. As I say, Mickey more and what he has done since that has been absolutely superb. And Eamon, as I say, was the manager, was the boss in those times, and what a partnership.
Just to jog the memory for a second, so we can't go through all these games and we won't in massive detail, but so the Ulster Championship, you beat Down in the quarter-final. This is this Down team that win in All-Ireland in 91 and 94. So you beat them in a quarter-final. Then you beat Monaghan by 8 points in a semi-final. Then Clonus Ulster final, and it's an 8-6 win against Donegal, and it's a monsoon day. People remember it because the pitch was probably half waterlogged.
Half? Seriously, it's big puddles of water lying that you were in 2 inches.
Wouldn't go ahead today?
Not at all. And the pitch was relayed that week.
Right.
And it hadn't it.
And did anyone say we shouldn't play?
We were there at the end of the day, as the old controllables, it was way out of our hands. I remember we arrived halfway through the minor game over the old change rooms in the hill, and just seeing the gap between the crowd and the change rooms, and the minor game had just come across in the water, just going
They were actually puddles, and I can remember looking out of the old, as Enda says, looking out of the old change rooms window, and I remember a Derry player, and the game had been delayed and stopped for a long time. My own surname, a lad Scullion from Bly, broke his leg in the minor game. And believe it or not, I would have took 2 pairs of boots with me, studs and moles, and I was a wild man for the moles. I would always usually wear the moles unless of the very worst conditions. And I had my moles on till quite that day. And thanks be to God, it changed before I went down the steps, because it was.
But they wouldn't have made any difference because studs weren't catching either.
No, it possibly wouldn't have been the water.
Number of times you were sliding it right across the pitch.
And then it just turned from water till maybe towards the game went on to muck. So it was. We can remember. I'm sure I don't mind the story. Was it Joe O'Neill?
Joe O'Neill.
Joe O'Neill. He was an ice cream man from Dungiven. And he was.
He sold more than ice cream.
Yeah, well, he was in the hill.
We'll just say for the record that.
So he had a pub.
A pub and a grassy bank away from the Jerry Arthur stand he was on. But Joe had an enjoyable day anyway. But he slid down the hill, and he landed into our change rooms. This is as through as I'm sitting here, and all we could see was the 2 eyeballs. He was just black. The whole thing was covered in muck. Unbelievable.
We had to get him kitted out in tracksuits and stuff.
We did. It was unbelievable.
Brolly brought him in, of course. That says enough about it.
Unbelievable. It was just incredible.
Did you get any ice cream?
No, we didn't get any ice cream, but we got refreshments.
There was a few frothy tops.
Semi-final, you get Dublin. 15 points to 14. 1 point win. Could go either way. What's your big memory of Dublin at Croke Park?
Oh God, there's a lot. Going in 5 down at half time, Derry supporters shouting, was it 5 or 4? 5?
5-9-4.
5 down at half time, Derry supporters, typical Derry. I'll never forget that.
Right.
Just going on between the Hogan and the Canal End, there was a tunnel entrance in there.
Yeah.
And there's people from the Canal End, it was the terracing at the time. And that stuck, and that was widely talked about at half time.
Really?
That was actually
typical Derry losers, you've blown it.
It's typical, as I said to you earlier, because my generation was growing up watching not just Derry, all Ulster teams losing, so people weren't used to Derry winning.
Okay.
So that was one memory. Now, there's a lot of good memories, but that was possibly a good memory.
And it was mentioned at halftime inside?
Oh, absolutely.
It was, and you know, when you look back, Derry in the 70s had a great team. We had a great team in the 70s, middle 70s. We were unfortunate. We went to Croke Park. I felt one Sunday was in the National League final or something final way back in the 70s. 76, and we didn't get to bounce the ball that day. And that was an absolutely great Derry team. A great Derry, household names, you know, great men who I really looked up to when I was growing up. I mind being at Dean McGlinchey Park in Ballinascreen, my own home pitch, which was the county grounds back then before Celtic Park was done up again. And I God rest my father, taking me in a black Máire-Treasa bicycle to behind the screen, and we'd be the first one in the stand. And the Derry team run out from underneath the tunnel, and it was they'd given me £1 million. It was just brilliant, that team. So going back to '93, and I've said this before, you know, it was many's a day that we deserved to win, and we didn't win. That day we won a tremendous game of football against a great Dublin team and great atmosphere. I was playing full back in the second half and the hill behind me, and was marking a great player called Vinnie Murphy. And I can remember the crowd were shouting, Vinnie, Vinnie. They were nearly eating the wire. And
Obviously, you knew well.
and you know, if that didn't make you play, if that did not make you play, and it was great. And you know, I know a number of them Dublin players, and you know the Dublin supporters, absolutely tremendous too. Great people. What I'm saying is that game finished 15-14. And you know this, a draw would have been a fair result, if you know what I mean. Did Dublin deserve to lose it? Did we deserve to lose it? No, none of us deserve to lose it. But we'll take it. We'll take it. Because there was many's a day we did lose that we possibly should have won. So that was absolutely tremendous to get till the first All-Ireland final since 1958.
It would have been very easy to have fallen into the trap to have won a game like that, enjoyed it immensely, and nearly forgotten you had an All-Ireland final to prepare for as well. That's caught teams out over the years. So can you remember the preparation between Dublin and then that All-Ireland final building up to that day against Cork?
Absolutely. And we were being brainwashed by, our support was tremendous, but every day you went down the street, no matter where you went to, the game was with Sam Maguire won. Because after beating Dublin in such a great game, but people forgot Cork hammered Mayo in the other semi-final, if I can mind right, 5-15.
Yeah.
To maybe, there was 20 points on it to finish up thing. 5-15 to 10 points, if my memory serves me right. And Cork hammered them. And that was a great Cork team. But everybody was putting this notion in your head, oh, it's Derry's year. But I'll tell you this, our management team, mature. We went to Glenullen, and they'll tell you, and Glenullen might have been maybe the only club in Derry that had floodlights, and they had a great wee stand. And I can remember, Eamon was wild to a man to playing 15 against 15, and we cut the thripe each other. I mean, Gormley's talking about Ni-Cheallaigh, and I had Brolly on the other side, but this is a true story. A true story. There was a fight broke out one night.
It's not always the case with him.
No, this is true story. I wouldn't. There was a fight. I'm not going to name the two players. There's two blocks in the middle of the field that night, and Eamon came out with his own wee grin on his face and looked at him and says, "Enough's enough, boys." And one, if not two of them, said, "I thought you said Coleman had a fight for our positions." And he went back.
Eamon wasn't in a rush.
He went back and he turned and he walked with a wee grin on his face. He knew he had us in the right place.
What was a big advantage to us was having lost the Ulster final the year before, and after winning the league and beating Tyrone in the preliminary round of the championship, who would beat in the league, and then beaten down, there was an incredible buzz around the county, and I believe we took our eye off the ball for the Ulster final against Donegal. And we honed in on that to not let that happen again. There's no way we had the same level of focus in that 92 Ulster final. So when we got to the final in 93 and all the hype, there was a great advantage on having lost the 92 or the Ulster final, because that kept us saying, listen, remember what happened last year. We have a reason here to be here, and that did keep a focus.
And it was great going to Glenullen them times, because the stand was packed. There's maybe 500 or 600 people there to watch the thrill matches. And was
there anyone from Cork there?
No, well, might be somebody up at 3.
Was there a Donegal man like Brendan Devaney or something like that?
Have you had the present county secretary there to run around with a hat?
Maybe it was somebody up at 3 more. Devaney.
He says no comment. An All-Ireland final is obviously an extraordinary thing for the players, but just as a detour into the final itself, Tony, You mentioned your father there and going to watch matches with your father in the 70s. So a big football man, and I'm sure a big football family. Tell us about his experience during the 93 final.
My father, for a long stage, and as I said in early life, he was taken. We had no car at the house. We were brought up 3 miles out of away, 4 miles from Ballinascreen pitch.
And Glen Parish, by the way.
No, Joe, don't take that on board now. That's
Mickey Rookie's called.
aye. My father was a Glen man, but anyway.
There's good in him somewhere.
So he had a talk in a Black Maria bike, but when shortly after that, whatever, my dad took bad arthritis, very bad arthritis, and he wasn't fit till he was in crutches, and he wasn't fit till go to matches. So my father never seen me play live in his life, and the day of the Ireland final, my mother, I think, maybe seen me once playing a club match, whatever. But the day in the All-Ireland final, he spent all the game in his bedroom with a pair of rosary beads, praying. And Mammy had her rosary beads too, but she would be giving Daddy that what was happening in the match. She would go to the kitchen, pray, watch a match, we go down to the bedroom and tell my father how the game was going. She was watching the TV and reporting to him in the bedroom. So that's what it was. And my first born, Charlene, was born on the 5th of September 1993, the day of the All-Ireland hurling final. And Charlene was christened the week after in the Holy Rosie Chapel in Ballinascreen in the Sam Maguire Cup by the late Father Leo Derry, who was a great GA man. And after that christening, I took the cup down 22 Carnamoney Lane and placed it in my father's knee. And that was, to me, that's what the GA is about.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. So I think we can all hear the emotion in your voice, and telling a story like that, it's understandable why your father obviously cared so deeply that he couldn't bring himself to watch the match.
That's right. That's right. He just couldn't bear watching it. Of course he watched it after, but he just couldn't bear watching it. And it was just great to win it.
And would he have talked to you a lot about football? Was it your big connection? Or?
No, Daddy wouldn't have. As I say, I was brought up in a small farm, and there was three of us, 3 boys, no girls in the house. And at that time, all the work was manual. There was no machinery like nowadays, and you had to get the turf home, you had to get the hay saved, and all that. And but luckily enough, my father and mother never stopped me from going to the football field or the hurling or the Ballinascreen JC club. So I was always allowed to go if there was football or hurling on. I was allowed to go, and the other 2 boys would have looked after us.
So
I could tell you another story, but we'll maybe leave it to later. Joe, I'm going to tell him about 87, Gormley. You were with me too. We won the Ulster final in 87. This is a very true story because he can say it. And Ulster title for us back then was tremendous.
Yeah.
It was tremendous. And Plunkett Murphy had been given was the captain. So the dumb thing was we had a great night on Sunday night coming home from Clonus and all that. But the dumb thing was go till the captain's town of the club the next day. So we all made our own way. My brother Danny took me over. The hay was being saved at the house, and the hay, it was great weather, and there was shaking of the hay, and there was bales to be brought in and all that, and baled and all that. But Danny says, Danny was fair enough. He was the oldest brother. He says, Tony, you need to go over there. And I says, I need to go for it. So he ran me over. So on a Monday, maybe we ran it and given at 1 o'clock. Well, we didn't get home till Tuesday. Me and him was thumbing over the Glenshane Pass. And I can't remember who left us, but they left us at the bottom of Glenshane Pass, and he headed towards Maghera, and I headed towards Ballinascreen. And somebody gave me a lift up the 5 May Slate, and I got till John Barney's. You don't know what John Barney's at, but it was a mile away from the house. So me walking down the road, me dying. I was absolutely dying. Never slept the whole night. And
Oh, you did? You slept in a cot?
He's gonna. So
That's not a joke.
so we're heading down. I was heading down the road, and as I get closer, I was getting to the house. I could hear the shaker going and the baler going in the field, and that's the last thing I needed to see. So I landed in the house, and my father, as I say, he was housebound. But I went round the front door that my father wouldn't see me, and I got down into the bedroom. And you, sure to God, Mummy was up doing the hay and like with the lads and all. But you think she smelt me coming in. The next thing, 10 minutes later, I had my eyes closed. In the bedroom door, blank for that. Get up and save that hay up there. And I went up, this is through, and we had great neighbours and carers and all, and they'd have been around helping us. And I lay in behind the hedge, and they built the hay and all that for me, and I slept the whole day. Great crack.
Oh dear.
With stories like that, it's no wonder really that you guys had the strength, both physical and mental, to go on eventually and get to that All-Ireland
You're missing
title.
the point. He didn't do any work.
Smart. Remember earlier he praised you for your smarts. He also had his own layer of smarts as well. But I mean, so we moved from hay and saving the hay or not saving the hay to saving the day. There's my pun. All-Ireland final 1993. So your father, God love him, was in the bedroom with the rosary beads, frantically saying his prayers, praying you along. Your memory, do you remember even maybe walking around the parade, were you thinking, my dad is at home, or was all that gone out of your head, were you just focused on the game?
Well, do you know this? I always knew my parents were at home praying for me, because I don't want to be sounding here that I'm a holy Joe. I'm far from it, quite honestly. But
Well, I think we're all shocked to hear that.
I think we're very clear it's your parents who are praying and not you.
I used to bring my mother to the monks maybe every 4 or 5 weeks in Pocono, and I was a priest, Brother Martin, I don't know, this a great man. But anyway, would have bought wee prayers, she'd have got wee prayers, and wee prayer, and I had great belief in a wee prayer to St. Joseph, and I always wore it in the sole of my bit, and I always wore medals inside my togs. And when I had them on me, I says, hopefully I'll be guided.
And was that your thought in the parade?
On the parade, yes, I did. In the parade, you know, there's, quite honestly, I don't know what ended, but I took everything in. You know, you took it in and you have to say to yourself, right, this is a field, as opposed to each end of it. It's 15 against 15, you have a man to mark, and if you can cover for somebody else on top of that, great. Go out there and do your best and believe in yourself, you know, and if you lay back and play a negative game, then it'll not work for you in Croke Park. You have to be positive. You have to attack the ball. You have to, as a cornerback or fullback, if you see space in front of you, that space is not for you. That's for your marker. You have to try to fill that space before he gets into it. And you have to be positive.
Cork go 5 points up early on. Derry turn around, they're 3 points up at half-time. You get the job done. You kick 6 points, as I mentioned. I know you were battling injury all year. Your cruciate was at you, but you get the job done. Full-time whistle, Enda, is it everything you hope it will be?
Yeah, despite what the other quiet corner forward says, absolutely. I don't get that. I don't buy in with Joe's analysis at all. He's very famous as saying that it was an anticlimax. Not for me. It was one of the few things in my life ever that, you know, if you won an Ulster, my brain set was very quickly turned into All Ireland. If you won a National League, it was whatever, that was it. That was utopia. Like there was no coming back. So it was an absolute euphoria, and was for a long time after. So it was everything that. Listen, it was way beyond my dreams. I say, I keep going back to the point of growing up and never seeing Ulster teams, never mind Derry teams winning.
Yeah.
As a kid, you had a dream which you probably thought was far-fetched to play for Derry, but I wouldn't even have dreamt of playing for a Derry team that won an All Ireland. It was way beyond.
And what were the scenes like in Derry when you got home? Like, that's, you know, still a very difficult time politically, and this would have been a real beacon for a lot of people. Can you remember the aftermath?
Well, it was crazy because it took us so long getting home. Such was the euphoria, like Drogheda, Dundalk, Balbriggan.
Why did you stop there?
Coming up, there was a reception for us in these places.
As in
the local town had a stop. It was incredible. Like we got to the town here, I think, at 3:30 in the morning. And then when you got north, there was one in Killeavy there, just as you crossed the Carrickdale. There was one in Newry, there was one in Armagh, the Moy, Dungannon, roundabout. Cookstown. Well, there was a couple of receptions in Cookstown. there was a group of red and white supporters, and then there was a group that added blue to it.
Okay.
And so there was a bit of a diversion there. I don't even remember where we got into today with Moneymore. I think we just drove at that stage. We didn't go to Marfell.
I think
So we got to the town here, which was the traditional reception. So it was about whatever the town was black. It genuinely was completely full with people, and the people had been here from these people know better than me, but I think they were here from early afternoon and waiting us, and I think we were scheduled in to be in at 7, 8 o'clock, and literally it was well after 3 o'clock.
Wow.
And we got up there and we paraded the whole way up the town, and literally there was a human barricade of stewards having to clear a path in the road. It was absolutely bedlam. For me, like, one of my memories was Felicarry Sam Maghera past my own house and that reception on an open deck bus. You know, as you talk about a kid and you see these soccer parades and you see whatever open deck bus.
Yeah.
To do that, to bring Sam Maghera past your own house, your parents outside it, that was a very, very special moment.
Yeah, I can imagine. Your parents got to the game as well, did they?
My mother saw me for the first time ever in an All-Ireland final. She kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and saying she'll go to the final and got the Ulster final. No, this is not it. And put it off, so kicking and screaming. But she wanted to go, but then she thought she was going to be the jinx. And of course, I told her, there's 80,000 people there. It'd be your fault if we could beat them.
She was a big game player. I'll come to you. I'll come to the All-Ireland final. But.
Yeah, well, that's it. So and then she took a notion. Her brothers would have played for Derry, and one of them had a bad car crash and paralysed in his prime, and that stopped her. Nothing to do with football. She didn't go to football after that, even though the accident had absolutely nothing to do with football.
Yeah.
So she just didn't get in the habit, and then so she never saw me playing. So that was. But she could only started for 6 months after we went to everything, and then stopped again. But again, like it would have been traditional. A lot of them wouldn't have watched the games, would have praying and in and out, and heard me. My father and my uncles would have went to games for every game, no matter who was playing, and my mother and my aunts would have met up, and some of them would have come out and kept her informed of what was going on, and she would have juked in and out. But I think that was fairly common from a lot of
This is a terribly unfair thing to do. It's worth saying, by the way, Derry won 7 All-Stars that year. You two, of course, and then there was, I jotted it down, Johnny McGurk, Henry Downey, the captain, Gary Coleman, Anthony Toll, Brian McGilligan, all won All-Stars that year as well. But just, you read through the team, and it's just full of these names we all remember. There were two teammates of yours, certainly, I think, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, your memories on. So, Anthony Toll, first of all. Like, I think we all kind of, I was of an age where I didn't know every player in the team, but Jesus, Toll stood out even to a kid because there was something superhuman about it, felt like.
Anthony Toll had everything. He was before his time. You just can imagine Anthony Toll in the middle of the field for any team now in Ireland. He'd stand out. He was just a superhuman being. Yeah. A superhuman being, and a lot of ones don't know he had a trial with Manchester United.
Oh no, it was in the pay. There's a picture of him, I think, almost like smashing Andre Kanchelskis, and Ferguson saying, "Geez, go easy here."
And I don't know. I've said before, I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't mean he doesn't think I meant any harm. I was hoping he wouldn't make it. I was certainly hoping he wouldn't make it, because he was. Would we have won All Ireland without Anthony Toll? And this, just a super player. But don't forget about his partner too in the middle of the field. Brian McGilligan. What a partnership. Brian McGilligan was reading the road for Anthony.
Yeah.
But Anthony was.
Wouldn't want to get caught in a sandwich between the two.
Oh my God.
They were great men.
Was Toll known in your circles as a good soccer player as well?
No, Toll wasn't a soccer player. Toll's two brother-in-laws would have played a couple of caps each for Northern Ireland. Yeah. Eddie McElhinney and Jerry McElhinney. Jerry was an all-star back in the 70s and then went to play for Bolton, and he was in the Northern Ireland squad in 1982 World Cup, I think. Right. And Anthony lived up, when he got married to Sinead, he lived up in Park and played more soccer, and he played a couple of games for Carrying On over the winter. And I could be wrong on this, but I think he had played something like 10 games organised soccer before he went to United for the trial. It was because of who he was. Somebody had saw him, they saw his size, saw his feet. Because Toll, like, one thing people talk about him as a Gaelic player, the best free taker I ever saw. he tapped 50s for fun back in those days. When, you know, you hadn't the core, they hadn't the work the boys were doing. Sidelines, curl them straight, whatever. There was, like, I would love somebody to do the stats on his success rate. It's high 90s. Like, it's crazy. Like, apart from how good he was as a player. So obviously they saw his footwork and they saw something. And obviously he'd been to Australia as Aussie rules professional at that stage, and thought, give this man a go. It started off with, I think, some of the smaller clubs. Man City were small at that stage, and Stoke, I think, remember 2 clubs were in for him. And then the scouting world got on top of it, and he laughed at it initially, and then he's a big United man. So whenever United come aboard, he said, I'll have a bit of that, actually. Like, so he had 2 weeks, I think he played with Mark Hughes, and the reserve game, Andrei Kacelskis.
Yeah.
There was 3 or 4 of them, like, he had, like, he played, so it's a great story, like.
Did he train more than everyone else? Because, like, my memory of him was a bit like Joe. Like, we were, I suppose, children at the time, but Anthony Toll was one of those players who stood out. And I remember looking at him and thinking, he looks like, you know, Superman. He looks so fit and athletic, more than most of the people in the field around him. Did he train harder, or did he work harder, or what did he have?
Coming home from Australia, professional Aussie rules, he went out there. I know people here of that generation remember going out. It reminds me of actually the son going out now, in that he was very tall and lean, hadn't grown into his body properly. And after his first year, he just came home, and the whole chat of the country was, have you seen this, man? It's just incredible. And the Aussies would have probably done more bulking up then than they would be doing now. It wasn't that Anthony was overbulked, but he came home just a different animal. So he brought weights and he kicked the rest of us on, even though it wouldn't have been the same organised programmes at that stage. But those good habits, they always talk about a bad apple in the barrel, but good habits seep through a setup as well. And some of the rest of us would have nipped and took his ideas from him, weights, but he was way ahead of me. He would have been. He was naturally strong, but he also did a lot of work at that stage.
And when you look at when you look at in the present day, you had Conor Glass, who spent a period of time in Australia, and he's come back a Superman. Chrissy McCaig. Chrissy would have been Australia maybe for a shorter term, but Chrissy, not if Chrissy was at home in Australia, Chrissy McCaig would be in quite a shape anyway, because he'd be ticking every box like Anthony Toll in preparation.
Joe Brolly. So he's the shy retiring type. Yeah. So I think we're all very familiar with Joe on television and like the towering intellect, and he's such a brilliant communicator. What about Joe, the player? What was he like in that dressing room? Was he every bit as
worse?
Confident and just force of nature in so many ways. What was Brolly like in his 20s?
I think it was Joe. Well, he'd been a couple of years, a fair few years younger than Tony, but he was a few years younger than me. But I wouldn't have known him through the underage setup, because he was boarding school in Armagh, so he wouldn't have been through the school system here, which was very big in Derry. Even there was either St Pat's or the intermediate schools did very well here in Derry at that stage, and so Joe wasn't part of that, so he wouldn't have been massively well known. And when he came into the setup, basically the first thing was, who the hell is this? And I can give you an idea of how his personality has never been any different. And his first day he tugged out for us, I think, was the drawn game against Down in 1991. And halfway through the second half, he went over and said to Coleman, are you going to lose this game, or are you going to put me on? and to say that to any manager, but to say to him and Coleman, like, was screaming, was a very strong character, but very, that's legend. And totally, like, are you going to do something about this? And to be fair, now Eamon Burns made the big change that day, but Joe did make a difference.
Right.
You know, he backed it up, but he never was any different.
Did he do the great orations in the dressing rooms? Like, what we know of Joe is like, even like from interviewing, you know you're going to get a great answer, but you don't know how long it's going to take. And then you're trying to find the space to interject, to maybe ask somebody else a question. Now, everything he's saying is wonderful, but it takes a lot of time. Was he like that as well in the dressing room?
He wouldn't have got that much time in our changing rooms. There wasn't as much political correctness in our changing rooms. He got his turn with everybody else, but there was a lot of strong personalities in our changing room, and wouldn't have just sucked all up the way the press do.
Tony, I think I heard you say he brought certain confidence to things, and even when things were nervous, he had a certain relaxed manner.
Absolutely, and you know this, he backed it up. When he went out onto the field, he backed it up. And, people can say this and that, and people, kissing to the crowd and all that. that was his release. Whenever you're fit to back that up, a man can do that, you know. And you know, he definitely had a tremendous ability, boy. Absolutely tremendous ability. Eye for goal, eye for a point. Give him half an inch, and he would screw her over, no bother to him. Absolutely. And you know, even you're marking him and thinning now. He was brilliant because he'd be talking to he'd be standing talking to this here, as if it didn't matter, and be watching the tail of his eye when the ball was coming, and then he'd try to get wee shifting away on you, you know. I can remember one night, but many's a night. Well, one night, one of them nights up in Coleman. Anyway, I was marking him, and there's this big space in front, and I was marking the space, and he shouted, "Hey, Scullion's ball watching, Scullion's ball watching, put it over the top, put it over the top." So I says, "Joe, if I'm ball watching, then you get the bloody ball then." So he was a great player, absolutely great lad. And as I say, he did give you confidence because you knew he was up there along with this boy beside me. You knew if you got the ball up there, they'd finish her off.
But his confidence made him part of the player he was. Like he was flamboyant on the pitch. He had no nerves at all. He just give me that ball. I'll put it over the bar. And like he backed up what he said to Coleman. He meant that. Like I'll go on here and I'll make a difference. I'll win this game for us.
Yeah.
Like he did more often than not.
Do you miss him on the television?
Sure, see plenty of them.
I do miss him on the television.
You do, sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people.
I absolutely do miss him on television. You know, I know times maybe it may have been a wee bit times overcritical and all that, but there was something about him. He was. You could listen to him, and you know he was fit to read the game pretty well. So yes, I think he's a miss on television.
And not only that, to be fair, I wouldn't agree how he goes about everything, but most of his arguments I would be very strongly agree with a lot of his principles with the GA and how it's run, and you know, not everything to the exact T, but
sure.
He's never that far off the mark with all his bluster.
Look, don't let him hear any of this nice stuff about him. It'll go to his head.
Well,
we'll tell him the truth.
We'll sort him out.
God, this was fun to listen to you guys reminisce, and it was nice to even hear you say nice things about each other as well at the start. It was great.
Definitely cut that out.
Yeah. Can you give a round of applause, please? I think they were great. Tony Scullion and Enda Gormley, everyone. And we're gonna keep things moving so we don't get too behind ourselves. But just to say as well, we do, with thanks to Guinness, have two pairs of tickets to give away to Saturday's All-Ireland quarter-final. Cork against Dublin, the big one. I know you're all looking forward to it. There's some match on before. You can go early. It's up to yourselves, whatever you want to do. So all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is when we're doing the football chat, the boys are going to come back and Brendan's going to join us on stage. We'll have a little bit of chat about the weekend. If you want to put up your hand and ask a question, best question wins the prize. So just make yourself known to Shane and we'll get some questions before we wrap up for this evening. So we'll reveal the winners before the end of the show. We are here in the Dugout in Maghera. It's all thanks to Guinness 0.0, 100% Guinness, 0% alcohol. More social occasions off the GA pitch are yours for the taking. We're taking a 2-second break, and then Eddie Brennan's going to be with us. Back in 1 sec.
Thank you, gents.
Thanks, Enda.